Hey, what's up Aquamigos? How are you guys doing today? In today's video, we're going to start stuccoing the outside of the koi pond's retaining wall. Yesterday, I came out here and I patched up some more areas that needed to be patched up and also smoothed out some areas like down here. So today, we should have a pretty nice, even surface to stucco. And my goal is to kind of match the stucco on the wall of the house. It's kind of like a light, lacy finish, and that's what I'm going to try to replicate over here. So the first step is to mix up some stucco mix with water. I've never done stucco before, so I had to figure out the right consistency. And by the way guys, I just want to mention, this is not meant to be a how-to video. This is my first time doing this, and before attempting this, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos by other people, so that's kind of what I'm going off of. So anyways, apparently you're supposed to wet the surface that you will be applying the stucco to with water, so that's what I'm doing right here with this fancy sprayer thing that my dad lent to me. And then it was time to apply the stucco to the cinder block wall. The consistency of the stucco was not what I expected it to be like at all. I was expecting it to feel a little bit more like mortar, but that's not what it's like at all. It almost feels like some kind of thick glue, and it even kind of smells like glue. It's very goopy, and it's fine, and it's lightweight, and it sticks to the wall extremely easily. As you would probably imagine, the rounded parts of the retaining wall were the most difficult parts to apply the stucco. And that's just because I'm not able to put my trowel onto those parts flat. On the flatter parts of the wall, it was extremely easy to apply the stucco. This layer of stucco right here that I'm putting onto the wall is called the base coat, and after this there will be a couple more steps to achieve that stucco look that I'm going for. So for this base coat right here, the consistency of the stucco is pretty thick, and then from what I've watched in other YouTube videos, when you go over for that second coat that's going to give you that kind of stucco look, you should mix the stucco a little bit more watery than you do for the base coat. And by the way, you might have also noticed that I started on the back of the wall instead of the front, and that's just because I wanted to get a little practice done with the stucco on the back of the wall before I did the front of the wall that everyone's going to see. Alright guys, so I figured I'd do my first update. So first of all, I'm covered in these sticky flowers from that bush right there. You can probably see on my back. They're like all over the place. But I mean, I did this whole side of the wall, and as you saw, I went over with that sponge. I think one thing I'm going to try to do in the future is to not make the sponge so wet, because I think I did have the sponge a little bit too wet, because as you can see, some of the stucco did kind of like droop down a little. But for the most part, I think it looks really good, and I got like a pretty even consistency. The sponge is really good at getting out that grainy texture that I wanted. Another thing is that, I don't know if you guys could see this, but it looks like there is maybe fiberglass or something inside the stucco, so I'm going to start wearing a mask going forward. I should have been wearing one earlier just to make sure I don't breathe that stuff in. But when it comes down to it guys, I'm really happy with the results I'm getting so far. So I went ahead and continued to mix up stucco and apply it to the backside of the wall. I felt like I was really getting the hang of it by this point, and real quick, I just want to apologize for how the wall is really dark and hard to see. The wall of the house reflects a ton of light, and it creates really dark shadows on the retaining wall. I then went ahead and continued to float the wall with that sponge, and I should probably mention that from the videos that I saw on YouTube, most people were using a sponge float, which basically looks like a trowel with a sponge attached to the bottom of it. I'm just using a regular sponge that is probably not actually meant for this. I'm guessing a sponge float would probably work better, but this regular sponge seemed to get the job done either way. Okay guys, so I think it's time for another update. So I just finished floating everything that I did so far with the sponge. I kind of got like a decent grainy texture. It's nowhere near as grainy as what the wall of the house is. I have no idea how they got that graininess, but mine is nowhere near that kind of consistency. But nonetheless, I think it's good enough. So the next thing I'm going to try to do is I believe they call it the skip trowel effect. That'll kind of give it that lacy feel. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix up some more stucco, and I'm gonna get my flat trowel, which I have in here, and I'm gonna put stucco on top of it, and then I'm gonna just kind of go like this up the wall. I'm gonna have it more or less flat, like horizontal. I'm gonna go up the wall like that. Wherever the stucco kind of catches itself and grips to, that's where it's going to go, and then I'm going to go over it and just kind of flatten it. That's how I saw one guy on YouTube doing it, and it seemed to work out pretty well for him, so I mean, I'm gonna give it a shot. Here we go, guys. I'm starting to apply that lacy stucco texture, so I mixed up the stucco a little bit more watery than I had it for the base coat, and I'm holding the trowel at kind of a 45-degree angle, and I'm just kind of floating it over the wall, and the stucco is just kind of catching randomly. Then I'm going back with the trowel and passing over that second layer with the trowel flat on it. Once again, this is just kind of what I've observed others doing on YouTube. I'm not 100% sure that I have the technique 100% correct, but this does seem to be working out pretty well. One thing that I realized is when I'm going over with the trowel a second time to get that second layer of stucco flattened out a bit, it helps to have the trowel clean, so every once in a while you might notice that I scrape off the trowel with another trowel just to make sure that it's clean, or else what happens is extra bits of stucco that are on the trowel will kind of mess up the design that I got going. Another thing that I just wanted to mention is that I didn't do the entire base coat for the entire pond today, just because I knew I wouldn't be able to finish everything today, and from what I've heard online is that you have to do the base coat and the second lacy coat in the same day, or else it won't come out right. Hey, what's up, Aquamigos? So it's now the next day. As you saw last night, it was getting dark, or it actually was dark, and I brought out those floodlights so that I could kind of see what I was still doing. But even with those lights, it was still kind of hard to see the details of what I was actually doing. The stucco is, you could tell that it's still curing. It's not like 100% cured yet. Some parts of it still look a bit wet. I think it probably does take quite a while to cure, but check it out. This is what it looks like. Here's one side here, and as you can see, you know, I think for my first time doing stucco, I think it didn't come out bad at all. I think it actually looks pretty decent. And yeah, let's just go ahead and look around the whole thing so you guys can kind of get an idea for what it looks like. I think starting on the back of the wall for practice was a really good idea. Now I kind of feel confident enough to do the front of the wall, and I think it'll look even better once I paint it. I mean, the stucco texture isn't 100% the same as like the wall of the house. You know, the house does look a bit different, but I think for the most part it's gonna match pretty well once I paint it the same color as the house. And then of course the next step is going to be to do the remaining sides of the wall. So anyways, guys, I would love to know what you guys think about my stucco job on this wall so far. Let me know down in the comments below. And as usual, guys, I have some shout outs for the Aquamigos. I have a shout out for Kayla Miller, Silent Silver, Ajax, Keeping It Coy, TPW Has Puppies, Wayne Archer, and Africa Fish Keeping. Thank you guys so much for being Aquamigos. I really appreciate that. If any of you guys watching this would like a shout out in my next video, all you have to do is go down to the comments below and comment something with the word Aquamigo in it, and I'll shout you out in my next video. If you did like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you went down there and gave this video a like. If you would like to see more videos by me in the future, make sure to hit that subscribe button and also that bell notifications button. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, I'll go ahead and put my handle right here. It's @YT_Tobias, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Peace.